Okay, so here we go. Welcome in, everybody. It is Thursday the 7th at 10 a.m., so that means it's our Design 300 lecture. We are on Google Meet together, and I do have the recording on. So let's take a look at, again, what we're doing this week. We're talking about flooring systems for beams and joists, and a big deal is about, there's a big chunk of material costs and a big chunk of labor costs. So you want to be efficient with it. And so the goal of our calculation part is just to give you an idea of how calculations are made. We're not going to go into optimizing and getting the most efficient and the best. That's actually got a lot of going back and forth, and there's a lot there are a lot of things that come into play, and a decision on one will affect the others. And you'll find that different designers have sort of some standard decisions that they go by so that the design is fairly simple and easy. So it's not our goal to teach you what every designer might do or every architect might do, but to give you an understanding so that when they ask you to do something, you'll be able to do it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Um, there is no software needed today. So the other thing that we'll do is we'll talk about this joist material calculation, and then we'll also talk about that last page in the submittal where you need to find a detail drawing. And I'm going to just show you. It took me about 5 minutes and I was able to find something. Okay, so that's sort of what we're up and over. You can find things in the resource file, but of course, when you click on them, it will say all you can do is view. And so you'll either have to download it or go into here and click on it from here, which has the copy already into it, as you see right here. So I can go in here and I can make a copy of my joist material calculator. And the goal is to figure out how much wood is going to be used. And on a large project, you'll just buy so many board feet of wood. You know that you're going to put up one house to maybe 10 or 15 houses, or maybe a large apartment complex, and it's going to be done by stick, which is wood framed. And so you just want to estimate how much wood to order from the mill, and then they'll sort of go, they've got a rough number that they tell you per board foot overall, and then you tell them how much you want of each size, because board feet are inches across by inches deep times how many feet long. So it's a volume measurement. It's just a weird volume measurement. Leave it to the imperial system to have some sort of weird thing like this. Square inch foot. It's like, oh, no. So they just call it a board foot. And that's how you calculate it. So this would be 4 times 4 times 10, which is 160. This thing right here would be 160 board feet. And on a big job, you might have, 4x4s and 2x4s and 2x6s and 2x8s. And you don't really want to figure all those out and send them to the mill. You just want to kind of get a good idea and say, okay, we're going to need, 10,000 board feet or 50,000 board feet. And the mill will make sure they have enough wood for you. Okay, and there's more to it than that. You have to specify the species and the grade and the how it's been dried and all that kind of stuff. But as a general, you're just going to start off with board feet. Okay. So this is here so that you can sort of figure out how to calculate board feet. Okay. So what I want to do is find out. Here's a cool little thing that I can look at here. So this says I want to span 20 feet. I want 16 inches on center. So I need to figure out what size lumber I can do 20-foot span, 16 foot on center. So I'll come over here to this one. Let me put them side by side. I think it'll be easier for you to see. So I need a span of 20 feet. So this one would do it. Okay, I could do a 2x6. And, oh, nope. Here my spacing. Oh, sorry. Here is my span. So that one won't do it. I need a 20. So here's one, 21. So I can span 21. But this one only lets me do 12 inches on center. I need 16 inches on center. So that's no good. Here's 16 inches on center, but it's not 20-foot span. So let's see. Here's a 20-foot span. These are all 20-foot span. And I need 16 inches on center. So this has to be a 2 by 12. That's the only one out of these that works. Okay, this got 16 inches on center. Okay, so I had to find one that was at least 20. That one's 20, that one's 20, that one's 20, and that one's 20. And then I had to pick one that was 16 inches on center or so. This one's close, but it's not quite doing it. Darn. So this one is it. I can do 20-foot span because it can handle up to 23. And I got 16 inch on center. So then I read my size, 2 by 12. Let's try the next one, and then I'll let you do your own. Okay, this is going to be 12-foot span and at least 12 inch on center. So 12-foot span, well, that one would work right there. That's a 12-foot span. There's 12 inch on center. So that'll work. So I can do a 2 by 6 here. So do you see how those work? And you've got to fill in these two on your own. Of course, I'm going to get rid of those now. So now I want to find out how many board feet. So it's inches thick by inches wide. Okay, inches thick by inches wide. 2 by 8. And then how long is it? Oh, the length is right there. The length is essentially my span. And so this is going to equal T times W times length. So each one is 240 board feet. And then up here it says I need 15 of them. So it's going to equal whatever is in that cell times 15. There we go. And you can do that calculation straight on down for all the rest. So you you're going to look at these numbers. You're going to really start with the span and find one that's that span at least. So, sorry, the span. I got to find one that's at least 20, at least 12, at least 12, and at least 16. Okay, and then it's got to be able to have the right number of inches on center spacing. Okay, means I can't go over that. It can be under that, but not over that. And then this plays into how many I'm going to use. So just pick your sizes and fill this out. And it's just a way for you to start thinking, okay, how do I pick sizes? How do I do it? And of course, I'm doing this for a 30-foot load. I haven't even talked about load. You can actually use either one of these tables. I don't care which table you use. I'm not specifying the load. So you can just use this first one. Most standard residences are this 30-foot or 30 pounds per square foot, unless you've got a water bed or some piece of equipment in some area. And then you just make sure that that area is well supported. Okay, and last time we talked a little bit about live loads, right? They're the things that are not just the weight of the material. So these, the weight of these joists and these beams would be part of the dead loads, and the live loads would be all the stuff that gets put in place. Sofas, refrigerators, TV stands, tables, people, things like that. Okay, so those are your calculations. It seems a little bit but you'll figure it out. This is your sample. I kind of just went through one. And so your given is this. This is what you're given along with this. So in your given column, you've got two things. You've got your data that you're given and the stuff that's in orange. And then you're going to figure out this from the table, and you're going to calculate this based on the stuff up here. That'll help you figure out where everything goes. Any questions on that? Got to play with it, I think. And then I showed you the actual, I have a video on an actual span calculator that you can just use trial and error to get this with. You plug in some of these numbers into the calculator, you'll get it, depending on what material you put in. Okay, so this gets complex. That's why we have architects and designers. Really cool. And that's why your detail drawing doesn't specify all this stuff. It just shows you how it's going to go together. A detailed drawing would show that this is sitting on top of this, and that there's a hanger way down there at the end, and you would just specify this size in a note, this, but it wouldn't have to be drawn to scale. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit toward the end of the class about different types of wood. You saw that there was spruce, there's fir, there's hemlock, which is a type of fir, I think, hem fir, and they all have slightly different properties, and they have different properties depending on where they're grown. If they're in the Northwest, if they're in the Central West, if they're in the Rockies, if they're in the South. just because, environmentally it's different. And, look, there's certain numbers of knots that you can find or can't find, and the grain is a certain way, and they pull it from different parts of the tree that are better or worse. Certain grades are allowed to warp more than others. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into that, and you just have to know that it exists at this point. Okay, so that's our demonstration for this part on joist material calculation. And the goal is to find board feet. And you will probably find, I'm not positive, but overall, you will find that if you have two selections to make from that table, you'll probably end up being pretty close on the number of board feet. That will probably not be your deciding factor. Okay, but it can be, and you need to know how many board feet there are in a project. So the next thing I want to look at is your submittal template. And we want to take, so we just showed how to do this, right? Paste your source data here, which consists of some of this data. You can show it not filled in. That's your source data you're given, plus that. Okay, so that would go here. And remember, you can move some of this around, and this wouldn't have to end up being here. And most of you are doing a really, really nice job, but I want you to take care to make sure that as you paste it in here, that it looks nice and that there's a little bit of separation between this edge border and the border of your image. Just kind of help it pop just a little bit. And you can change some of these colors and make them look a little different. But try to make this into a nice presentation. And it could be that this is not the best place for these. You can move them around to make them fit. Now let's take a look at this. I need to find a similar detail drawing. And by similar, I mean it should have to do with flooring somehow, and it should show all three things. It should show material selection, how it goes together, and some sort of a performance or specification statement. Okay, so in this case, it says lightweight concrete, wood, cord truss, gypsum board, insulation batting. Those are all materials. And then it says, see the structural drawing. That's a specification. 24, that's how it goes together. 24 on center, how it goes together. 2 layers, how it goes together. So those are telling you about how it goes together. And then 1 hour rated is a performance spec. And then it even gives the number of it. Gives the number. So you want to find something with all of those pieces to it. So I did a couple of just, flooring joist detail with specification, or flooring detail with specification, or flooring joist detail. And I found a couple of them. First one was this, and this took about 5 minutes to find these three. So let me, maybe I'll put this into a Jamboard. And take a snip of that. That'll go in. Yep. So let's take a look. I want to identify in red things that are materials. Bonded rubber base. That seems like a material. EPDM. That's a material. Concrete, asphalt, those are materials. Geotextile fabric. That's a material. Concrete, asphalt, aggregate, compacted earth surface. So those are materials for sure. What's the next one? Green is how does it go together? Here's something that shows how the glue gets done. And here's one with a dimple connection. And here's one that says space it out a certain amount. Okay, so those would be the how it goes together. And this is really calling out the order that things go, so you could even put that in there. Now I got my orange, which is a speck of some sort. Well, I do see a specification, all height ratings. That's some sort of spec somebody has to go look up. Here's see a sheet for grades and slopes. Here's an ASTM. Here's some more spec sheets. Okay, so those are all specifications, performance, or some sort of spec that you got to go look up. So that's how I would do that one. Okay, now you don't get to pick this one. You have to pick a different one. One of the problems with watching this is, I've got some already set. So here's another one. But there's plenty of them out there. So don't worry that you can't use the ones that I'm doing. Let's see if there's material information. So those are going to be red, right? So sheathing is definitely a material, floor sheathing. Double joists. Not a lot on this one. There's wood. So those are the ones that talk about the actual material itself. Okay, so let's talk now about how does it go together. Okay, here's one. Use a hanger if the span is more than 6 feet. Double header if more than 4 feet. Do something if joists are more than a certain amount. Put your pipes and vents here. Okay, so those are the things that sort of tell you how it goes together. And I just did the wrong color on those. Okay, I'll do that. I'll let you see how to do that. Actually, I can do it right here. I'll go ahead and share this one. Anyone with the link can view. Okay, so anyone with the link can view. I'll copy that and I'll put it down here. But to get to a Jamboard, if you're in Google Drive, you just go up to this little pancake and look for Jamboard. If it doesn't show up, you might have to go down here and put it into yours. Okay, so you might have to go down here, but you can get it from the pancake. If Jamboard is already showing up, that's good. Otherwise, you have to come down here and type in Jamboard. That's interesting. I wonder if they've gotten rid of it for everybody. Should be able to get to it from there. How do you spell it? Wow, now that was a good question. I can't even find it right now. Isn't that weird? So the other way to get to it is from over here. You can do a new, go to more, connect more apps. I bet you that's where it is. Wow. I wonder if they're not supporting Jamboard anymore. But you can do this on anything, right? You can do this on Paint. You can do it right in your Google Drive, right? If you want to, you could do it right in here. That's what I did here, right? I just went to Scribble and I put a scribble on and you set the color and you set the line weight. So you can do it right in here. I'm just using a Jamboard just because I happen to like them. And I think these ones were all supposed to be a different color, right? Those ones should have all been green. But you get the picture. That is one of the problems of a Jamboard. It's really hard to get to change it. But I'll make this last one green. I'll just go out of order. And then specs. Here's a spec. 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 Spec. So you can do lots of stuff with that. And you only need one. I'm doing 3 of them, right? Looks like I'm doing 2 of them. I don't know where my other one is. Okay, so there's 2 of them. How to do it. Once you find one good one, it's really cool because a lot of times you can find even more. Like this one's got some flooring and stuff down here that would call it out. There's a spec. There's a spec. Provisions per. All sorts of stuff on this one. See if there's any more specific to flooring. Here's another flooring one. And I usually open it in a new tab to see if it's going to be clear enough. Ugh, that one's terrible. Okay. You can get to it, but you can't open one. So usually, when you're in Jamboard, there's a plus down here in the bottom. That's where you open a new one. Okay. So there's at least 2 of them for you to be able to do. Right? And again, that goes, and you just put one of them on here. And like I said, you can do it right in here. If I want to, we just, oops. Right? I could copy the image, put it directly into here. Way too big, so I'll make it smaller. That's not bad looking. It probably needs a little something around it, so I'll put a light one around it. And now if you want to, you were to zoom in, materials of construction, red. There's a few ways you can do it. EPDM is a type of material. Have to remember to click on it all the time. So you can do it right in here. Okay. So if you feel like it, that's a fine way to do it. I don't really care how you manage to get these red marks in there. I just want to see that you've been able to go online, find and oh, good. So you got it. Good, Mark. Find an image and find one that has all 3 of these things on it. Okay? Not every detail has all 3 of these. You have to search around for a little bit, but that's my way of finding out if you really have an understanding about what these ones are. Okay? So really that's the majority of what I wanted to go over. These were the how-to, right? This is just going ahead and putting some in. Next week, I hope to have a kind of a compilation of some different concepts of how different people have put them together. And I'll tell you, almost everybody is getting excellent grades across the board on these. So don't worry if I didn't pick yours next week. Doesn't mean it was wrong. Don't go, oh, mine's awesome because it did get picked. They've all been very nice, but I'll pick some that I can make comment to that are very helps me express what good work is. Not to say that they are the epitome of good work, but I can talk to them. Okay, and some people might have used the same principles too. Okay, so not too long today. Does anybody have any questions? let me just make sure and see if you guys also, Aiden, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question on the calculations.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen or do you want to talk me through it here?
I'll just talk you through it.
Okay.
I noticed on the inches, there's a like one of them shows 10,
Yep.
and that's not an option on the chart.
Right. So anything
What would we do there?
anything over 10 would be acceptable. So this is sort of like the so that's a good question right there. Let me bring up this and I'll put them side by side. So if you're going to do 10, then if you could go as much as 12, this would be a good choice. Okay? So any of these ones, as much as 16, it's a good choice. As much as 24, it's a good choice. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So, of course, this one wouldn't work because the span doesn't meet also. And this one wouldn't work because the span doesn't meet also. But this one would because the span meets. Like, whoa, that's a mind bender, right? Did that work it? Cool. That was a good question. I'm sure that there will be others that are very thankful that you asked that question. Anything else as you go through it? Okay, then I'm going to stop the recording.